Well, Aero Gravel bikes are now a thing, and they're pushing this as they're going to give you these gains. And even though the speeds are lower, they make their arguments for why these bikes are going to give you an advantage over a time that you spend on the gravel bike, which could be 100 k's. So your time on the bike is a number of hours. And they're claiming that at slower speeds, these aero gains give you more time advantage, even though it's not a more speed advantage. So let's roll our intro and let's have a look at all of these things they're claiming about aero gravel bikes. Now, one of the arguments they're putting up for these aero gravel bikes is that when you're traveling at a slower speed, then even though it might be a smaller gain, because you're on the bike longer, because you're going at a slower speed, you get a bigger time benefit. And this is actually true. So if you might only be going a kilometre an hour faster, when it might be 3 kilometre hours faster at a higher speed, but because you're on the bike for a lot longer, the time gain is higher, but your amount of speed is not as high. And they're saying because an aero bike can give you this benefit, then you're still saving and it still gives you some benefit at a lower speed. Now, that may be true, everything being kept equal, but gravel bikes have one factor on them that really does affect a lot more drag on the bike. Now, what that is the wheels. Now, what you can do is you can optimize your body position, riding completely in the drops, and that gives you more aero. But that's not the bike. You can do that in any bike. But with a gravel bike, they've got a lot wider tires. You could be running 40, 45 mil tires. And what happens is the rims just can't be made. They're just not that big. We've not got 45 internal measurement rims. And we got bikes that can handle, well, the bikes obviously can handle the tires, but the rims would be significantly heavier if you had to go and make them that big. They would become a lot heavier. And also to try and create no tripping of the air on the wheel would be very difficult. You'd have to have quite a deep section of wheel. It'd be exactly the same principle as when you have a road bike. Now, we know that the wheels aren't really made like that, and they're running these wider tires. Now, a wider tire, even if it was made like that, is going to displace more air. It's going to cause more drag. So the second biggest thing on a bike that is going to give you an aero advantage is the wheels and tire combination after you're getting your body into a more aero position. Now, you're running the bigger tires on a gravel bike because we know that when you have a lower pressure, and this is something a mountain bike where you have a lower pressure and you have a wider tire, then that actually is faster over rough surface because you don't have that lifting force. The harder the tire is, the bike has to go up and over, which is all the weight of you and the bike, which could be 70, 80, 90 kilos having to be lifted. But if the tire is softer, the wheel deforms and rolls over it, not lifting your weight. So therefore your forward speed or inertia is not hindered as much when you've got a harder tire. So softer tires give you a huge advantage when you're on gravel or off-road. So we know that. So you want to ride these wider tires. But this is not what they're advertising these gravel bikes are as. They're advertising them as an aero bike. Really, when we talk about aero bikes, we normally talk about the frame design and the handlebar design, trying to get the handlebars as narrow as possible, which we know is a big factor, narrowing the body, getting everything thinner. That gives you a huge aero advantage because your arms are not out further and they're tucked in, and you're not getting that double disturbance of your body and your arms being separate. They're in front of your body, not out here. So that makes a big advantage. So, running narrow handlebars, but you can do that with a road bike or a gravel bike. It doesn't necessarily mean the bike has to be aero, which is what normally aero bikes mean. It means the frame design of the bike is made more aero and the shape of the handlebars is different. But you could even do that without changing the frame from a round frame to a aero frame. But so really, what is the aeroframe really giving us here? It's probably going to give us less compliance, and we're riding on gravel. And two, the difference that the aeroframe is going to give you is going to be so small compared to the other factors on the bike, like your body position and the extra drag that's being caused by the wider tires. It's not going to make up for the wheels. So the reality of all this gravel bike thing being a thing and at lower speeds, and if you do calculator and you do the advantages, yeah, that's true. But I would argue that going to that wider tire with the wider rim is going to take away the advantage of any aeroframe is going to give you, or make the aeroframe far less significant. So your advantage you're going to get is going to be pretty mute. Smaller than we have with road bikes, much smaller, probably even not measurable or significant in a race. So I think these Aero Gravel bikes are a bit of BS. That's my view on it. I don't think that going and buying an Aero Gravel bike, even though it's a de facto road bike now, it's got disc brakes, it's got an aero frame. I mean, really, all the only difference is that they've made it allow it to have a little bit more wider wheels, which the road bikes are going that way anyway. So it's really like a road bike, de facto road bike, gravel bike, aero bike, whatever. And I think that this is just the marketing, again, trying to sell more product. And we've got prices of off-the-shelf bikes now hitting prices we've never, ever seen before. And even these gravel bikes, which probably are more of a fun bike, are really getting expensive. We've also had a lot of recalls on these bikes. I do believe Cervelo, this gravel bike, has had a recall. It's just the money we're paying and the quality we're getting is just really poor. And I don't believe the manufacturing costs have increased that much coming out of countries like Taiwan, China, Vietnam, and so forth. So I don't know where they're getting these prices from. We're now around the mid $20,000, $20,000 to $25,000 AUD for a number of bikes, not just like some insane bike. Specialized SR7 in Australia was the one that really pushed it over 20,000, but now they're all coming out between 20 and 25,000. And I really have to ask you guys and myself, what the hell extra are we getting for our money when we're actually seeing more problems with these off-the-shelf bikes? Well, leave your comments down below. What do you think about aero bikes? Do you think these gravel aero bikes are really going to make a difference when you're off-road? Leave your comments down below. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next vid.